Getting a little bit more personal now. So, you know what? I think the biggest thing that being able to read other people um, did for me to start with and everything was it made me realise that we're all the same, you know? We're all in this struggling, trying to survive in a world that doesn't make sense, you know? Because back then I was thinking, like, something's wrong with me, or I'm useless, or flawed, or because there was such a pointlessness to life so often, you know, and suicidal often as well, um, going back to those earlier years and everything before all of this awareness. And so I'm thinking, and I think a lot of us do think this actually, is that everyone else out there is skipping through the daisies, having quite a good life and getting on with things and that, and I haven't got it figured out. Something's wrong with me, And so the readings in themselves was a huge revelation of the fact that no, we're actually all pretty much the same, we're all trying to survive a world that doesn't make a lot of sense in the ways we're living our lives and the things that we're doing with our lives and that, like it doesn't kind of match the nature of what we're about and everything, and and so, and I think it happens a lot with teenagers and that, like yes, New Zealand's quite bad actually. It's got one of the highest rates per population in the world for youth suicides and that, And I think, it makes a lot of sense to me. It's like we get thrown in these wretched penitentiaries, force-fed information that for the most part we're not interested in learning, and it's also military based and everything, the whole education thing. That's why we wear uniforms and that's why we line up, and that was kind of what it was designed for in the beginning and that. And and we moved through a system for years that teaches us to compete and to control, victimize, just all of everything that schooling does and everything, And then our parents promise us, they're like, look, if you just go to school and you get really good grades, you can have a good future. It'll get you into a good job. You're not going to have a good life if you don't go to school and that, like school's so important and everything, And then if you even resist that and that, parents will be like, well, that's the law. We can't break the law, And so we endure it. I'm sure there's some good parts here and there and everything. And there might even be a small percentage of kids in that absolutely loved it and will go back tomorrow and do it all again and everything. But there's a lot that wouldn't, And I even look at kids in that and it's like they can have abuse in the home and everything and they'd still rather have a day off school. It's kind of weird. And then we come away from all of that and it's like, where's this good life we were promised? We did all of that, we turned out, we got our grades, we passed, and isn't there meant to be some payoff that we were promised if we just did all of that, and then we tell our teenagers something's wrong with them if they're depressed. Like, if you're depressed and if you've got anxiety and all of those kind of conditions that have exploded everywhere in our world, then I don't think anything's wrong with you. I think maybe you've woken up to the world, if anything, because it's like it does not make sense, doesn't align to the nature of our human beingness and what we are, and we're these free, intelligent by design beings and that, and we're living these lives that don't make any sense, and that takes its toll on us. And the readings really kind of made me realize how connected we all are and how in this together we are, and that there wasn't something wrong with me and everyone else was having a good life. It's like, oh no, people are not having good lives. You might think they are, but they're not. I mean, I read them every day and it's like, man, challenges that some people go through, and that just blows my mind, and the strength and endurance that we have in our human beingness never ceases to amaze me. Like, man, people have some really, really hard stories, and so I think if you're depressed or you've got anxiety and that, there's really valid reasons for feeling those ways and being in that space. And, the world doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense how we live our lives, But the reason that the world out there is like it is because each of us have contributed to the creation of it to be that way, And that's all come about because of a disconnection from ourselves, we're not remembering our brilliance, we're not owning that, we're in self-loathing, self-judgment, pointlessness, and it's hard, and it's really hard, and we've created this world outside of ourselves that doesn't make any sense. And the only way that out there is going to be able to be different, as if the in here can change and transcend it all. And then we can only align to what comes out of that shift and that change, and to impact that difference collectively, Otherwise, we're just rearranging it all out there, It's like you take this woman out of this, relationship over here because, she's getting abused and everything, and you put her somewhere else. It's like she's going to attract another abuser within 6 months, Because the only way you're going to change anything outside of you is change what's inside of you. It doesn't matter how much we rearrange that out there. But you know what? There is a solution. It starts with us, each and every one of us, and it starts on the inside, and it starts with the relationship that we have with ourselves. Because just even with our individual lives and that, you start changing that relationship with yourself, start experiencing yourself more and actually including you, and all these beautiful ways I'm going to help you with, then your world will change, Like, I've lived that. I know that, it's like, through the experiences that I've been through, and that it's like it's just shifted and moved my life and my experience of myself in these really profound ways where I actually have a peace now, and I don't really have wants so much or desires or even needs. I have a curiosity though, see what I'm doing and what I'm learning and what next is going to flick up, and I kind of move through my experiences in a completely different way than I ever used to, and that's freeing in itself, and the more of us that can embrace ourselves in that way, and start to heal that relationship that we've got with ourselves, which is good news, because you haven't got to fix all these other relationships in your life with everyone else or everything, because they're just all reflecting you, So when you get this job tidied up a bit, when enough of us do that, then and only then is what we're creating and manifesting in our external world collectively only then that can be something better, be different, be impacted and affected. Sometimes sometimes the biggest problems have the simplest solutions, but the only thing that gonna kind of change anything outside of us is if we start to have a different type of relationship with ourselves on the inside. Because ultimately we are the ones creating this world collectively, constantly. And then in turn being subjected to it. And from our rational mind, our intellect, our experiencing of ourselves, that world doesn't make any sense, And actually the relationship that we have with ourselves and the self-loathing and judgment and everything doesn't make any sense to me either. So it's important that we start to turn inward a bit. But that's what the readings gave me, and changed my world because of that, when I realised that, no, we're all really challenged in our lives, and there was nothing wrong with me. And that's how I feel about anyone out there in the world today, where they're like, I've got depression, or I've got anxiety, or I've got, it's like, no wonder. There's actually nothing wrong with you. It's really, really normal to actually feel that way when you look at the world. I'm surprised we're not all depressed, Mum was interesting because she's like this whole generation leap. I had quite an old mum, like she was like 39, 40 years old when she had me, so it's quite a big generation gap there, And I remember saying to her about somebody that had taken their life a while ago, and she says to me, oh, well, that's a mental problem. And I go, what, suicide and that? And she goes, yes, that means something's wrong in the bloody brain. Something's wrong with the brain. They should have gone to a psychiatrist. And I'm like, oh, is that what they didn't, because that's what they did in her day. So you go right back, and it's like, man, anyone moaning about life, it's like you've got mental problems. And I think that's kind of why a lot of us are like, everyone else has got it sussed and something's wrong with me, because we've kind of perceived it in that way, And when you start reading other people and you're standing in their shoes and you see the challenges that they experience, and wow, it's like, no, we're all in this together. We're all in this together, and we're not so powerless. And to make a huge contribution to changing all of that, the only thing we need to do is get busy with ourselves. Start improving the relationship with ourselves, Start loving ourselves so our world can be that of love. Anyway, food for thought again.